Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode 12 of Just One More Podcast. This is, well, I guess the beginning of the new day that we're going to be recording on, which will be Sundays.
Which is irrelevant for the listeners, I'd say, because they don't know what day we record on.
Yeah. It just kind of dawned on me at that point. I was like, man, it doesn't really matter. But it is October 2nd, 2022, the first episode of October.
Which I guess in that case, yes, because we do give the date.
No, well, yeah. There's all sorts of continuity things that we're trying to maintain here, people. But I am Jeff from Just One More Level, and we have John from My Brain on Games. How are you doing, John?
I'm good. Spent a good weekend with family, both sides. Just got back from my parents' house. It was a whirlwind trip back there. Lots of stuff happening unexpectedly. Went fishing, caught a fish. That's always fun.
That's it's always nice, just you've got something planned out. Things are going smoothly, and just that the unexpected stuff pops up, and it's just
in this case, it wasn't family related or anything. There was just a grass fire nearby. It's like, it's really dry here. There's a burn ban going on. Is that the neighbors burning? And then kind of went and looked. It's like, oh no, that is a grass fire. Maybe started by somebody tossing a cigarette or something out of their car because it was right by the road. But whatever the case was, we called it in. Fire department came out, put the fire out.
Well, it's always nice when they do their jobs,
Yeah. One of the things I have been doing, going back home, is kind of going through the attic, cleaning up some stuff, bringing some stuff back to our house, just because the little one is getting to the age where he can kind of play with some of the toys I've played with. He's real big into cars right now, so brought a bunch of Hot Wheels and stuff. But one of the things I brought back this time was a CRT TV, my childhood TV.
Oh, that's...
I'm honestly surprised it still works, considering it's been up in the attic at my parents' house for at least a decade, and it gets really hot up there in the summertime.
Yeah, I remember helping kind of get that cleaned up and organized and stuff, and it does. Like, it gets really hot, and but
it seems to be working fine. I brought that home. I haven't had a chance to fully test it. I plugged it in, tested it there. I even brought a PS2 with me this time because I was thinking, okay, well, I want to test it before I bring it home. And for whatever reason, in my little wrap, my cable wrap for the PS2 that I have, or the slim PS2 I don't have the correct AV cables. I had the power cable, but I think I have the AV cables for a Sega Genesis and a 32X for some reason, strapped to the power supply of the PS2. Whenever I sat it down in front of the television, I had the television turned on. I was like, okay, well, let me get this plugged in. I plugged in the AV, and then I was like, wait a minute. That doesn't match the console.
Which, for anybody, anybody listening, you've got a couple different consoles that you have access to. So, for some people who are like, oh, well, I too have had a 360 and a PS4. You've got a few more than that.
Yeah, I'm just puzzled though why I had the 32X AV rubber banded to the PS2 power supply. It must have just been whenever I was putting it up, I must have just been in a rush or something.
Because those connectors, I don't think those are very, very similar to each other. I don't think.
Not at all.
So, yeah. But, maybe it was just kind of one of those things that you saw a PS2 and you're just like, man, I wish you were a 32X.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure there's people out there that have had that thought of...
No one. 32X had like 40 games release for it, and I don't know, only a couple are good. I mean, there's some good games on it. I'm not going to lie.
There was potential there, but I don't think it was necessarily ever fully realized. I don't think.
No way. But Well, another thing I got while I was there, and I really surprised me. Like, I knew the CRT was there, but going through my desk, I was like, okay, let me go through all the paper. Let me sift through some of the papers. I didn't go through all the papers. Most of it's just like schoolwork and stuff. I did find 2 receipts, which changed my my memories a little bit because my memories were wrong. So one of them was for the Nintendo DS whenever it first came out. I had always thought I had got it from Blockbuster. If you remember, whenever Blockbuster had like a little game store inside their locations.
Yeah.
And I think it's just because maybe I got Mario Kart DS from Blockbuster, and maybe that's the memory I'm thinking of. But anyways, it turns out I had purchased the Nintendo DS from our hometown Walmart, and just like a week, 2 weeks after it came out, so that actually solidified the actual day I got it, December 6, 2004. And then the other one is Tales of Symphonia for the GameCube. Oh. I had my receipt from whenever I purchased that game, again, a different place than what I had originally thought, or what I was remembering. I had actually purchased it from our local Best Buy on August 4th, 2004, which was about, I think, 2 weeks or a similar sort of thing, just a couple weeks after it originally released, and for the weird price of $40.99. So I don't know if they were having a sale or if I had coupons, and the way the coupons applied, they actually reduced the item, or if it just launched at $41, or maybe Best Buy was selling at that cost to try and be competitive.
Was there any markings of like the whatever that Best Buy like gamers membership thing was? Did you have that at any point, or was
Did that
it just
exist in 2004?
I know they shut it down just a couple of years ago, or a few years ago.
Yeah, I think that had only been in existence for like 3 or 4 years. I don't think that was a more recent development. But no, and the thing with this receipt is it was incredibly faded. Like it basically just looks like a white strip of paper. So I mean, I had to get my wife and come over and look at it and be like, okay.
What do you see?
What do you see? Like, I can see what the game is. I can see the price. I can't find a date, and then she found the date. But my memory of it was that I'd got it at our local Target, before we had a hometown Target, our local Target. And I guess I have that memory just because I remember being at that Target and pointing the game out to my dad and telling him about it. I guess that was the memory. I always thought, well, that was that must have been when I purchased the game. But no, turns out I got it from our local Best Buy.
Well, at some point, now, again, for all the listeners out there, typically, you've got a just very spot-on memory. So I figured at some point in the, 20-ish years that we've known each other, I knew at some point your memory would start to fail, and I just really wondered when that was going to happen.
Well, I guess it turns out it happened like a decade ago, or whenever I first started thinking these memories. Surprise, I'm fallible.
But I'm sure there's a lot of people that are shocked about that. But yeah, that's so. I guess another question: are these possibly the oldest receipts that you found to kind of puzzle your collection together, like with your Excel spreadsheets? Like, are these the oldest receipts of known data for your collection?
Yeah. So they actually probably are. Like, I do have some older games that have receipts from previous owners in them. Like, I have some old like Atari games that have the original receipts. Of course, they're not mine. But for my purchases, yeah, these are probably the oldest receipts now that I think about it. And I guess, I know from Christmases past, like, hey, I got the Killer Instinct Super Nintendo bundle this year. So, I mean, I know whenever I got stuff, but of course I don't have the receipt for that. That was a gift from when I was young.
Yeah. All right. Well, already dealing with some, digging up some research for your collection, and
yeah, I was honestly excited to get back to the house, fire at my computer, and say, okay, let me go correct those dates in there, because I don't think I had.
It must be accurate.
Yeah, I think I probably just put the release dates because I thought I got those games on launch, like the Tales of Symphonia and Nintendo DS, but I guess turns out I didn't. Yeah, and for somebody that would have been like my freshman or sophomore year of high school, paying attention to game releases was not as easy as it was back then, or as easy as it is now. You know what I mean? Now it's like, hey, like we live on we live on the internet. Back then, so I had the internet and everything, but wasn't on it all the time.
And I mean, even quote unquote back then.
Back in our day, reading Nintendo Power and EGM and OPM.
Yeah, and all the one-up people, and which we had
to rely on the advertisements in the magazines to tell us when the games came out.
Yeah, and on a quick little side note, I saw Limited Run Games' announcement. Jeremy Parrish, one of the... I can't remember the original way that he was from Joystick, right?
No.
Or,
no, I mean,
he was one up?
Yeah, he had always been one up. He was always like the retro guy at EGM and one up, and then US Gamer, I think he went over there whenever one up went away. Yeah. And he's been at Limited Run for the last couple of years.
Well, I saw the announcement that he is leading the charge for a new endeavor for Limited Run, publishing books about video games.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, kind of continuing on what he's doing with his YouTube series. He does YouTube series, chronicling the NES, Super Nintendo. No, maybe he's just done like the NES and the Genesis. Playing through games chronologically, archiving them, and then putting out books at the end of those years.
But I saw that and I was like, well, that's really cool, because I like one of the books that was highlighted was like almost like a history book of the launch of the original PlayStation. And I've kind of had this thought for a few years, like now we're starting to see books and stuff that are we see the stuff about Nintendo and we see the stuff about Sega and like those eras of gaming, but as far as like it seemed to just kind of stop about like mid 90s forward. Obviously there was stuff like Stephen Kent with the Ultimate History of Video Games, I think, with both of those books. Obviously there's that, what he does, and talking about gaming and stuff past the mid 90s, but most of the stuff kind of seemed to just really stop around the era of the launch of the PS1, and so it's cool to see that at least through like Limited Run, I think it's called Press Run, I think.
Yeah.
Is the book publishing side of Limited Run now, or that they're launching. But it's cool to see that there is going to be something that dives more into kind of that like mid 90s and forward, and specifically about PlayStation, because there's not really much out there that's just like centered on PlayStation as far as like how they got into the business, what happened, like the people behind the scenes. Like one of my favorite books, and I think probably yours as well, or one of your favorite at least gaming documentary books, Console Wars, kind of like as the book was ending started to kind of get into like some of the people at Sony at the time of the PlayStation, but then the book kind of wraps up because it wasn't about that. It was about the war between Sega and Nintendo in the late 80s, early 90s to mid-ish 90s. So yeah, just little tangent there, but since we were kind of referencing some of the original sources of what we had to rely on, I was like, oh yeah, I remember that Jeremy Parrish is spearheading this new effort from Limited Run, and of course you and I buy a lot of things, or not a lot of things, but
yeah,
we've supported them over the years.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I mean, I buy a couple games from them every year. It seems I'm not crazy buying multiples of everything they put out, multiples of every game anyone puts out.
Yeah, that way you got one that's sealed, one that you can actually play, and then maybe sometime in the future be able to sell it because it is a limited run. But, um, so yeah, outside of that stuff, with just us getting older and the archaeological finds of receipts, um, I think I'll let you kick off on this one because the two things that I've played over the last week. Are not new games, so I don't really have a whole lot to. I essentially I finished Killzone Shadowfall and I got back into playing Yakuza Like a Dragon. So I'll save those for after after your stuff. So
Okay, well, this may be a pretty short episode because, like we talked pre-show, I only have really one game I'm bringing to the table, and it is a new game that I have not talked about before. It's not a new game, of course. I don't play new games until Star Ocean comes out. Then we'll be playing that.
And that's just a couple weeks away.
Yeah, so I started a game that's been on my backlog for a while. Now, last week I said I was feeling ready for an RPG. And it's not an RPG, but it is a, more long-form game, so something to keep my time occupied more so than just to shoot 'em up. I did start Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order.
Oh, I think I was messing with Discord at some point a day or two ago, and I think I saw that. So yeah, okay, I'm okay.
Yeah, I did sync up my after Discord announced where we could sync up your Xbox profile or whatnot. I did do that. So okay, so you saw me playing it.
Yeah, so Discord ruined your surprise.
Well, yeah, that's fine. That's fine.
But it's a good game, from what I hear. I still haven't tried it out yet, but I hear it's a good game.
I mean, this is one of the Star Wars games under Electronic Arts' tutelage, and, for the most part, the Battlefront games never really interested me, but this one did. Developed by Respawn, the Titanfall people, former Call of Duty people, and
former Infinity Ward people.
Yeah, I guess now Apex. Apex is probably their big claim to fame more than Titanfall. But, they put it out in November 2019, and, even back then I was like, okay, that's a game I'm interested in. And I think one of my wife's coworkers had played it, and he was talking very highly of it. So this is a single player game, and kind of at odds with EA, especially during this time frame. Is a single player only game. And there's like one additional thing you can buy online for it. I think you can just unlock some extra skins, which totally optional, not needed at all. It was directed by Stig Asmussen, who you may recognize.
Oh, yes, God of War fame.
Yeah, he was a art director on the God of War series during the PS2 era, and then he did direct God of War 3.
Yep.
This is, so kind of keeping that in mind, kind of where he's coming from, maybe where Respawn's coming from, and of course where Electronic Arts is coming from. It's a bombastic, really story-centric action-adventure game, and I think the best thing about it so far is I'm like 10 hours in. I think I'm about a third of the way through it, maybe halfway through it. I think the best thing I can say about it is this seems like a killer Star Wars project. Like, it kind of checks all the Star Wars boxes. It's got the vibe, it's got the soundtrack, it's got the art design, and it's just really engaging and interesting from that point of view. Gameplay-wise, it's surprisingly like an Uncharted game. Again, kind of action-adventure. Yeah, action-adventure, but, of course, not gunplay so much. Cal Kestis, the protagonist in the game, he does wield a lightsaber. He does have Force abilities. He is a Jedi. Of course, with Uncharted, the thing that comes to mind comparison-wise for this game is just the amount of climbing and exploring you're doing. Like, there's so much climbing in this game.
Well, I mean, it's just kind of based on, God of War had some climbing. Uncharted has a lot of climbing, so, that they were probably like, this would be at least a decent mechanic to kind of add to the mix.
Yeah, and kind of adding another mechanic to the mix, and especially from Respawn's background, there's lots of wall running, kind of like the Titanfall games. Kind of goes hand in hand with like the exploration of these levels. It's kind of, I saw where people described it as a Metroidvania, and I can kind of see that, where your first pass on these planets that you're going to, you are not able to visit every place on the planets, because there are some gates that are basically gated by your force abilities. There's something that you don't have yet that could open up another path, so there's a reason to come back later. So in that regard, it is, also Metroidvania aspects, and then kind of some Souls-like aspects where whenever you rest to recover your health, recover your health items, enemies respawn. Of course, enemies are giving you XP that you can use to unlock survival abilities, unlock new attacks or force abilities from this skill tree. So it really is like a blend of a whole lot of different things, and it all works pretty well together. Like I said, I think the Star Wars aspects of it are like the coolest. It's just a really cool Star Wars thing. If you like Star Wars, you probably dig this. If you're not a fan of Star Wars, you may not. And the combat is really the thing that is cool. I mean, it's lightsaber combat. You're using force abilities. You're doing a bunch of cool stuff, but I just cannot get the hang of it. And I don't know if it's so much inspired by Souls in that regard, because really the only Souls-like game I played is Elden Ring, and that game's fantastic. Very direct feedback. This game, it seems like whenever I attack with the lightsaber, there's like a split-second delay from Cal doing an animation to actually wind up and do it, and there's a heavy emphasis on parrying. It's really hard for me to get the timing down on that. It gets to be just too bothersome.
So, how much time have you put into it, do you think?
Like 10 hours.
Okay. Because for some reason, and I might be wrong, but for some reason I'm thinking it's not a super long game.
It looks like it's like 20 hours, and probably it looked like 30 to complete it or go for like 100%.
Okay. So not too crazy. I mean, definitely as far as like a...
Well, I mean, for like an action-adventure game, that's probably like a nice sweet spot. Maybe even like a little lengthy. But with the RPG mechanics, like the skill tree stuff, it has some things to keep grinding for, keep going for.
Because, as far as like those like action-adventure type of games, like, that's pretty much like that 20-hour mark is pretty much where like... I think Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart landed, Spider-Man landed, and it seems like a good, like, it really helps when studios don't put too much just like fluff in there to just kind of pad the time. So I think 20 hours is a pretty good amount of time for an action game to go.
Yeah, and there hasn't seemed to be a lot of fluff in this game. The core story is really interesting. Like I don't know what's going to happen. He's kind of uncovering a mystery with a couple other characters, and the characters are great. Again, like just really great character development, really cool fleshed out characters, and there is a lot of fleshed out background story stuff going on. You'll get these voice logs, you get a bunch of data entries for like the enemies you face, the places you're going. He has this ability to basically touch some objects and know what happened to the person who last touched that object, like if somebody died or if somebody was escaping some sort of foe. So you get a lot of backstory on the worlds and a lot of just world building in general.
And is it a like completely new story, like a complete standalone, or does it tie into anything?
Well,
from what you know.
Yeah, I mean, it's Star Wars, so, everything ties into everything. It is set in between episodes 3 and 4. So, let me see. The Republic. The Republic that's what it's known as now, basically, the dark side, the big bads. After the downfall of everything in the prequel series, they've taken over the universe, and of course this is before, Luke Skywalker and the gang come and save the day. So it is, the Republic basically conquering planets, trying to take over, just deposing everyone.
Gotcha. But as far as like combat and stuff, like everything seems pretty fluid. Like, I mean, outside of trying to get the force controls under control.
Yeah, force controls are easy. It's just the combat feel is just it just has not jived with me. I just have not really been able to figure out the timing. The default difficulty whenever you start up is set to like a story setting, so basically giving you the most leeway whenever it comes to countering and parrying, and enemies are dealing basically the least amount of damage to you, so the lightest combat challenge. I kicked it up a notch or two whenever I first started, and then after like 8 hours I'm like, okay, there are some combat scenarios where I'm dying multiple times. I'm just having to retry, and I just can't nail the timing, and just it does not feel good. So I've dropped it back down, not to the story difficulty, not that easiest one, but kind of like difficulty number 2 of 4. And so that's given me kind of a good balance of giving me a little bit of challenge, but also just giving me the opportunity to do a lot of cool stuff with the lightsaber and with the Force abilities.
So pretty much what you're saying is that Elden Ring didn't quite prep you for this game. But, I guess like with typically for me with like the Soulsborne type games, like I tried Demon Souls. I tortured myself, but I enjoyed Elden Ring. 170 hours in, obviously I was enjoying myself to continue playing, or there was at least something there that kept me pushing forward to do more. But as far as like Soulsborne games go, I just cannot get into the vast majority of the true to form Soulsborne games or the clones.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard for me to say if this is a Soulsborne game beyond just that influence of the way you rest and then enemies respawn. I have not played enough of those type of games to know, okay, is this really aping that, or is it just a coincidence that they're both using like, third-person action adventure melee combat?
I think I saw something around the time that the game was coming out that people were saying it was kind of like a Soulsborne light. Like it shared some elements of Soulsborne type of games, but didn't lean too heavily into like Soulsborne style games. But it's getting a sequel, so obviously it did well enough that even EA was like, yeah, we can probably give this another shot.
Yeah. I mean, I think this was one of the things that have caused them, and I think some other people to reevaluate. Well, no, single player games can be successful. We don't need to just move over to multiplayer and monetization focused games.
Not everything needs to be a battle royale. Although companies like Activision have proven that it can rake in the money. Well, Activision and also obviously Epic. But like I said, I've always wanted to try the game out, and I just haven't.
Yeah. I mean, it's a killer single player experience, and like I said, story is engaging. I am really interested to find out what happens next, how it all concludes, what happens with these characters. It's just really well done, and beyond it, have not really played much else this week. I did put some more time into Null Drifter, that East Asia soft arena based shoot 'em up, just single screen shoot 'em up, kind of like Geometry Wars, and Mars Matrix, and really just continuing to play because there's still a little bit more to unlock, and there's more color palettes that I'm unlocking. So it's like, okay, I don't know how many color palettes are in this game, but there's still something to keep me coming back. And
gotta collect all those colors.
Yeah, I mean, my high score, I am getting a little bit farther every time, it seems like, because I am getting better damage or more health. So it's a really, really good feedback loop for what is otherwise just like some sort of shovelware achievement trophy game. Like, it honestly surprised me. Like, this game is stellar.
Well, I kind of wish that I had like a long list of stuff, but as I said earlier in the episode, unfortunately not. I did finally wrap up Killzone Shadowfall, which is another thing. Like this last week, kind of like it just felt long to me. I don't like. Earlier in the week, I beat Killzone Shadowfall, so maybe that's why it kind of feels like it feels like it was further back.
I mean, it almost feels like the week before that you beat it to me.
Yeah,
It's like, man, was that this week?
So, with Killzone Shadowfall, and I think in the last episode, probably in the last episode, I talked about how that final chapter had like 3 trophies attached to it. So I was like, well, okay, I'm here. It seems like easy enough to get these 3 trophies. One of the trophies is to kill 20 soldiers, and complete the mission. Another trophy was to pretty much complete the entire mission without being detected by the soldiers or the alarms. And then the third one was just complete the mission. Just get it over with, finish the game, and be done. Well, I was really, really trying not to focus in on trophies. I was really just wanting to get the game done, but then I was like, you know what? There's 3 trophies here. It's all part of this one mission. Let me try it. Let me see if I can do this. And God, that game. The stage that you have to go through to complete the mission, there's 23 soldiers in this area, and it's really not that big of an area. So there's the eyes are everywhere. Essentially, the ISA, well, I guess they're called VSA since they're on Vecta. So the Vecta something. They're essentially giving a rallying speech, trying to court the public's favor to go full out on the war with the Helghast, which at this point, like this is like game 5 or game 6. I feel like there's already enough of a rallying cry to fight the Helghast. Like it just, as I referenced in the last episode, the story should not ever get any awards for the narrative, because the story's not good. It is all over the place. The characters don't know. Like 2013.
2013 was PS4 launch title, right?
Yeah. So
are we still giving awards to 2013 games?
I mean, I'm not sure. There might be some people that go out and they play the game and they love it and they think it's great and they give it their own personal rewards, awards or whatever. But or maybe if there's any type of like organization that launches and they're looking at old games and they want to like praise and spotlight old games for stories or whatever, and just hopefully they like this game doesn't deserve anything.
Skip it.
So. But yeah, so for the most part, the final chapter in the game is to get those 3 trophies. It takes a little bit of time to be able to do, because you got the 23 soldiers that are walking around. There's also civilians that are just kind of walking around. And even though you can be stealth and you can be right up in front of an enemy soldier and you are stealthed and they won't notice you, if you are stealthed, and which stealth is the invisible cloak, so you are invisible. The enemy soldiers cannot see you. But if you walk around or too close, or if a civilian gets too close to you, they will immediately start screaming. I don't know how they detect you. I don't know why they detect you. I have no idea. If the soldiers can be right on top of you and they can't detect you, why is this random civilian able to spot me? So yeah, I finally decided I'm not going to try to get all these trophies. I'm just going to finish the game, get this over with. I did briefly, I did go into bot zone just to see, because there was one trophy that said to complete one multiplayer or complete a multiplayer match on all maps. So I was like, okay, I can do that. I made a list of the maps and just kept queuing into each one. I did a match on every single map. A trophy did not pop. And then I closed out of the game, took the disc out, deleted what I needed off of my hard drive, and it is now tucked away in a box.
You're like, the perfect way to cap off my experience with this game.
Yeah. Because like I had looked at some of the stuff and maybe it was just Mercenary that I looked at, thinking that I could use Bot Zone to get some trophies, but so I was like, Bot Zone, it's built into Killzone Shadowfall already. I don't have to buy anything extra for this mode. I can just go right into offline multiplayer matches. I did that. No trophies. So that was a disappointment to go along with the disappointing cake of Shadowfall in its entirety. But to uplift things a little bit more, I did start playing Yakuza Like a Dragon, which, if we're going off of its new, or, its actual name, Like a Dragon. So I'm about 56 hours into that game. It took me a little bit to kind of get reacquainted to what was going on and the buttons and controls and just what where the story was at.
How many hours were you before you came back?
I was around the 51 hour mark.
Okay. So you put like 6 hours into it since coming back.
Yeah, so just running around all the various districts and stuff, just getting reacquainted with everything. Whenever you do start the game back up, it does have like a little recap of the chapter that you're in, so that helps a lot. Of just like the motivations going on, the characters, what they're doing, all that kind of stuff. So it is nice that they do that. There is 15 chapters. I'm at chapter 9. I'm almost done with chapter 9, about to go into chapter 10. But yeah, it is just such a phenomenal game. Like I fully believe that this is a great template for a modern turn-based RPG. Not even just Japanese, not even just a Japanese role-playing game, just a turn-based RPG system. The characters, they move around, everything is still high action. It has a little bit of the conditional turn-based system that like Final Fantasy X utilized way back when, where agility really plays into what the characters can do and the order that they can go in, and then just how you can mess with all the parties of people. But yeah, it's just so much fun. And like the status ailments, just getting reacquainted just with the various items and stuff to cure certain things. Like there's paralysis, something that is known for all RPGs, but the fact that they have another status ailment that's just called drunk, which is their take on confusion, it's just I like the little nuances, the little attentions to details. Like they're just it's just so great, and everybody should be playing Yakuza Like a Dragon. It is just a wonderful game. And despite its very like mature overtones, it does not take itself seriously at all. The summons are just absurd. I think there's a crawfish that you can summon named Lucy, and there's a giant Roomba style machine that you can summon that just sucks things up. Within the first, I think within like the first hour or two, if I remember correctly, Ichiban, the main character, every combat, every single thing that happens, they explain why there's a transition in battle, because in Ichiban's head, he thinks he's in a Dragon Quest game. So whenever coming across anybody that they're fighting, the transition screen is literally how he thinks the fight is playing out in his head. So after like a cutscene battle or something happens, and there's people just kind of laying around, and then they get back up and walk off, or they get carted off. He makes references to the fact that I thought they disappeared. I didn't know that people came in and picked them up. But yeah, it's just so much fun, and there are so many mini games, and I know there's a couple different arcades in the game. One of them is actually Club Sega, where you can go in and play like Virtua Fighter games. There's a Super Hang-On arcade game that you can play. So for you would definitely love this game. It is such a great spiritual, just the entire franchise of Yakuza is a good spiritual successor to Shenmue.
Oh, yeah. I mean, since they announced it, like, hey, we're going to take the Yakuza games in a different direction. We're going to make them RPGs. Yeah, basically, since that announcement, and then, of course, this game coming out and kind of like what you said, like everyone's like lavish and praise on it. It's like, actually, they nailed it. They did it.
Yeah, like, they did.
This is a game I've wanted to play. I have it. I purchased it. I think I got like the day one Steelbook edition. I think maybe like Black Friday time, and I got it through Best Buy. So I got their exclusive Steelbook too. So I literally have 2 Steelbooks for this game. And I will play it at some point. It's going to be like Jedi Fallen Order. It's like, okay, it's almost like it's got to be on my backlog for a year or two before I finally get to it. But I will get to it.
I mean, the game came out late 2020 over in the States. So you've already got about 2 years on there. Well, I guess you did state your backlog, not just necessarily overall just how old the game is.
Right,
but,
yeah.
So I don't know when you put it on your backlog, but I like whenever you do get around to playing it, like this is going to you are going to have so much fun with this game. It has a Mario clone or a Mario Kart clone racer in it. It has a business management mini game in there, which kind of breaks the game because if you start running out of money, you can just go back to your business, do a couple cycles of shareholder meetings and stuff, and advertising campaigns, and generate a couple million yen to fill your coffers back up. But there's a legitimate Pokemon style battling simulation thing that I haven't I haven't gotten. It hasn't unlocked for me yet. The battle arena hasn't unlocked yet, but the fact that you can go around and you can fight just all of these every fight that you're in, you can essentially add them to what's called the Suji decks, and then use them to fight in the battle arena. So it is such a good game, so much fun. The character banters and stuff, like it just everything about this game is just awesome. And despite not completing the game, it was my 2020 game of the year based on what I had played at that point. Just a phenomenal game. All the job systems, the fact that you can let's see, so you've played Final Fantasy up to 7, right? You've finished 7, but you haven't gotten into 8 yet?
Yeah, I played 1 through 7, I guess, well, except for 2, and of course I basically just haven't played like 8 and 9.
Okay. But would you say that one of your favorite things about Final Fantasy V is the fact that you can unlock a class, have a character play as that class, unlock skills, and then be able to change classes but carry those skills over to...
I mean, Final Fantasy V has a terrible story, but its saving grace is for me, who likes the crunch. As I say, like every episode, I like those crunchy systems in RPGs. Final Fantasy V was saved by that. Like, I loved doing that. Like, okay, I'm going to go out and grind this class, and now I've got these permanent abilities. I'm going to go grind out this other class, get those.
Well, had to stop a cough from happening right there. But so with Yakuza Like a Dragon, it has that system, being able to, like, you can have your characters as a certain job, level up those jobs, unlock skills and stuff from those jobs, and then carry those over to, like, if you don't really like the, let's say, if you don't like the idle job class, but you want some of those, like, boosting, healing, status element curing abilities, well, once you've got those abilities, you no longer have to be an idle for that character. No longer has to be an idle to use those skills. You can then go back to being a clerk job, carry those skills over, and be able to dish out, like, more damage and stuff, and still be able to use those skills. So it is, like, I don't know how they, like, I feel like with Yakuza 8, since it's going to still be this turn-based RPG, set to come out, I think, 2024, I don't know how they're going to top this game, because this game just has so much going for it, at least in my eyes. And I mean, the fan base out there seems to agree that the game is just phenomenal. So I don't know how they're going to top this game. I don't know how much crazier they could go. I don't know what other mini game things they can add to it. But it is such, I cannot say enough. It is a phenomenal game, and I think even if people haven't, like, paid for it on its own, I think it's on Game Pass.
Correct.
I believe.
Mm-hmm.
So, you could play it on your phone, your laptop, Samsung TV. Just like, it's kind of like with the last episode with, at least I think with the last episode, Ni no Kunai being added to Game Pass. People need to play that game as well. It's a phenomenal RPG, and so, like, everybody's saying that well, not everybody, but there's a lot of people out there saying that
everybody's saying
yeah, that RPGs need to ditch turn-based combat because the systems are old and boring, and why should the characters just be standing around waiting to get hit or to wait their turns? Like, it should be all action. And there's a place for action RPGs, but there is also still a place for turn-based RPGs, and I don't think I'm the only one that feels that way.
No, I mean, you got me too. There's two people.
So yeah, like, there's at least, I mean, if the game is good, there's at least 2 copies that are sold. So it just, like I said, I just, this game is just so incredible, and really cannot say enough good things about it. In fact, I mean, I guess to add to it, I had played 50 to 51 hours of it, took a break, which then became an extended, like, year-long break, and managed to go back into it. Didn't start the game over. Picked up right where I left off. The game makes it so easy to just kind of jump right back in. There's also a really cool, if a little tedious, like, crafting system, being able to, like, make weapons and armor and that kind of stuff, but it's all tied to collecting items and exploring areas and doing things that, just really getting out there and looking at every nook and cranny that is in the area. But yeah, like, just more people need to be playing it. That's all there is to it.
Well, I tell you truthfully, get to it at some point.
Well, that's probably around the time that Yakuza 8 is coming out in 2024 will likely be when you're like, you know what, I should probably check that out.
I need to play Yakuza 8, but first I have to play this.
Yeah, and before I play that, I also need to play Yakuza 0, because I don't think there's really any story between them all, except for I've heard there's like references and stuff to it, but nothing major story wise. But
connecting this one, I think it's tangential stuff, but the other ones are connected in a lot of ways.
But I do remember. So I had stopped playing the game because I was like, I wanted to completely 100% the game before the like next gen versions released, and ultimately what happened is that I wasn't able to do that before the next generation versions released, and then found out that the save files don't transfer over. So I was like, okay, well, I guess if I'm going to play this game, then I'm already invested in the PS4 version, so might as well just finish that one out. But then I was really hoping to be able to finish the game before Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart came out, because that was the game that I was going to like get day one, play through it. I was super excited to see the return of Ratchet and Clank. Rift Apart is a great game. But then just over time, just other things popped up, and then just more distance seemed to grow between me initially taking a break from Like a Dragon to finish Rift Apart to, well, now, about a year and a half later. Man, time flies.
Well, it is awesome that you got back to it, especially after like teasing it on so many of these episodes.
That's I always felt like I was going to go back to the game, and then as finally starting to wrap up, I don't really know what all happened, but yeah, just like this year I've really put forth an effort to complete games, even if it's a game I don't like Killzone Shadowfall, or not necessarily enjoy, like Eoden Chronicle Rising. Like, I've made a concerted effort to at least finish the game so that I can be done with something and not just have it consistently sitting out there as like, I never finished this. So this year I've definitely been trying to do that. And so going back to Yakuza Like a Dragon, at least I will have fingers crossed that Star Ocean, the Divine Force, is good. But we are just a couple weeks away from that game coming out as well. I'm hoping to have Like a Dragon finished before Divine Force comes out, since we are getting down to the nitty gritty of that. I think it's what, October 27th? I can never remember the release date, but I think it's October 27th. But yeah. Let's see. So, no kudos this week. Couldn't really think of anything. I mean, maybe kind of like a backhanded kudos to Google for just pulling the plug on Stadia, like everyone kind of knew they were going to at the beginning.
Yeah, no surprise there.
Yeah. But do you have anything lined up as far as, well, I know you've got Fallen Order.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think it sounds like, looking forward to the next week, both of our schedules are pretty solidified around, one game apiece. I'll be continuing on with Jedi Fallen Order. I may beat it this coming week, and then maybe I have the time to complete it, like go for all the achievements, which won't be too difficult. And then, of course, you've got Like a Dragon that'll be eating up your time.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm a little over halfway done with Like a Dragon. I don't really have anything lined up. I don't see myself finishing it this week.
No, I mean, I imagine you'll be. So, I imagine you will come back and talk about it for a couple of episodes at least.
At least until it unfortunately gets put to the side because of Divine Force.
It's gonna get pushed aside one more time for Star Ocean, and then you'll get back to it once you're done with that. But then other things will come up.
Yeah, that's just a really good, just a really good year for gaming. I've since reviews have started coming out for Daofield Chronicle, I've been kind of thinking, I'm like, maybe I need to look at possibly putting that more on like a need to purchase sooner than expected list.
Did you play the demo for that?
I played the demo, and the combat is good. Like the combat, it's like really well done. It's a real time strategy RPG type of game, and the combat is really good. It's the stuff outside of the gameplay that I was a little cringy about, as far as like how the characters interacted with each other, the kind of like marionette type of floatiness that the characters had whenever they were in cutscenes.
Okay, yeah, I thought I remember you saying that you played the demo and kind of cooled your interest on it.
Yeah, it did, but then I like reviews and stuff have been coming out, and it seems to be drawing up some pretty good traction. I've saw like one or two different outlets say that this could be the sleeper RPG hit of the year, which, I mean, this year's pretty stacked with RPGs. So that, as far as like a sleeper hit, maybe, possibly. But like I said, with the reviews coming out, and it seems to be holding up, decently well. I'm kind of starting to think that maybe I do need to get that a little bit sooner than expected, but obviously with aiming for a house and stuff, that's there's other. It's more of like my interest is starting to go back up for the game, not necessarily my intent to purchase sooner than expected, but I've been hearing people saying good things about it, that the gameplay is really good, and like they ironed out some of the like animation hiccups and stuff that the demo showed. But outside of that, I've also been kind of thinking about Harvestella. I downloaded the demo, but I haven't checked it out yet. But the demo is available on Switch, which I didn't even know was available. But that's it. I like the fact that Square Enix is rolling out demos for pretty much everything that they're releasing. Like that, I like that. I kind of wish that the Star Ocean Divine Force save data, that demo, I kind of wish that could carry over to maybe skip some of the stuff that we've already done in the demo. But
yeah, I'm fine with that, because with that knowledge up front that it wasn't going to carry over, like whenever it came to leveling, I didn't really pay too much attention other than just seeing, okay, well, let me just kind of get the lay of the land, like what will I do whenever I level up? Because by halfway through that demo, with that knowledge of like, well, what I'm doing here doesn't matter, I'm really just here to get a taste of what's to come, I think I gained, like, by the end, like 3 or 4 levels that I didn't even bother spending the points for. Just like, whatever, it's not giving me a lot of difficulty. I'm just going to keep moving on, burn through this demo as fast as possible.
Yeah, and it's kind of a little bit of why I do like playing on the Switch. We've kind of talked about the like need to get trophies and achievements and stuff, but then whenever you go back to playing a game on the Switch and there's nothing to really be driving that like OCD, gotta collect all of these trophies or achievements.
It helps, like, just being able to relaxing. But turn off that feature, be like, okay, doesn't matter, I can just play the game. Don't got to worry about, let me collect every doodad.
So with the fact that the demo's save data doesn't carry over, it really just eliminates that need to grind in the demo, because none of it goes forward. It's just the self-contained thing. So it just makes it easier and just more relaxing to just and of course while playing the demo, I did catch myself quite a few times of like hunting for treasure chests or trying to get like the next couple of points to upgrade the skill tree a little bit more, but then having to remind myself, oh yeah, this doesn't this doesn't go anywhere.
Yeah.
So.
I was like, okay, not even gonna bother. Like I did find one treasure chest in the wild and be like, okay, cool. There's treasure chests around here.
Cool.
I'll have to keep that in mind whenever I play the game.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we have a pretty much set week. If you were to finish Fallen Order this week, do you have like a backup game that might squeeze in there?
I won't be able to finish it this week, so I haven't really even thought far enough ahead. I did bring that CRT TV back, with the thought of playing Suikoden Tactics on a PS2 instead of lugging out my
really old school.
Yeah, instead of lugging out my backwards compatible PS3 and having to listen to that and put it through, what could be its final game. And I did look and just dabble. I saw some sort of Reddit post notification came up on my phone, and it was like, oh, caught my interest, and it was talking about modding the old school backwards compatible PS3 with a better power supply and going back and putting some better heat paste on there. So that's something I'm interested in doing, but in the meantime I was like, well, Suikoden Tactics is the next game in the Suikoden series I need to play. I could just play it on a PS2 and a CRT, the way it was meant to be played, since there was no digital release on the PS3 like with 3 or 4. So that was part of the impetus for bringing that CRT TV back.
Well, I do remember when you had a PS3 that I think you purchased through eBay, and then I think it yellow lighted, I believe.
Yeah.
And then we opened it up and we put more thermal paste on the I think CPU.
Mm-hmm.
I think, and sealed everything or closed everything back up, plugged it in, and it actually turned on. So
yeah, it did work for a little
and
bit.
Operated. So is that the same? Is that the same PS3?
No. Yeah. So whenever that happened, I bought that PS3, played it for like a month or a couple months, and then I got the yellow light of death. We did that, and it didn't fix the issue completely. It just temporary solution. Wound up sending it back to Sony, had them fix it, and then that's the one I've had since. And then and then I did buy a slim PS3 like last year, I want to say, just so I could play, I could play PS3 or PS1 games on that and not have to put my backwards compatible one through its paces unless I was playing a PS2 game.
So, this has been episode 12 of Just One More Podcast, and we will see you with the next episode, or you'll hear from us with the next episode after that, with episode 13, as we get closer and closer to Star Ocean, the Divine Force.